Okay, you guys, 6.3 is about multiplying and dividing rational expressions. And the main thing you need to understand is rational expressions are just fractions with polynomials. And that just means we've got x's and x squareds on top and on bottom, but we're going to multiply and divide them. So main things here, when we multiply, we go straight across. Okay, and when we divide, we flip the second and then multiply across. Okay, so a couple of things. When dealing with rational expressions, it's nice that it says it might be, but you need to factor everything. Okay, you've got to factor everything because we're going to simplify our fractions and we can only simplify factors. So we just spent 2 days practicing factoring, so we should be good. But here's the one thing we need to check on, okay? If you factor and there's a binomial in bottom, meaning that there's two terms, something that looks like this. We've seen it all the time. Okay, you'll need to find the restrictions. And the restrictions are values that make the bottom 0. So we find restrictions by setting bottom factors not equal to 0. And then we solve. Okay, those are restrictions. And I'm going to go through these examples fairly quickly, but couple of steps. These are the steps from Ms. Bustle. First, decide if it's multiplication or division. Okay, if it's a division, flip it. Second thing, factor everything. Okay, third thing, straight across. So we're going to multiply straight across. And then you simplify by crossing out common factors. Okay, the last thing is check for restrictions. On this assignment specifically, restrictions are going to just be at the very, very end, okay? But in the future, we're going to have restrictions when we're solving at the beginning, but just focus on that. So first thing, we're multiplying. Example 1, we multiply. So we are going to, 1, we don't need to flip, but we are going to factor everything, okay? And on this, you don't really factor because you don't have x squared, like x squared plus x or anything like that. But we're going to go straight across. So on top, we're going to have 3 times 8, x squared, x cubed, y, and a z. Okay. And on bottom, you're going to have 2 times 15, y cubed, z squared. Okay. When we simplify that, I don't like to combine things because I want to simplify before I make things big. But the first thing I notice is 15 is 3 times 5, and I'm going to cross out the 3's. And 8 is 2 times 4, and I'm going to cross out the 2's. So all I'm left with on top is a 4, and on bottom I have a 5. Now I'm going to look at my x's. I have 2 and 3, so I have 5 on top and none on bottom. And then I have 1 y on top, 3 y's on bottom, so I can cancel out at least one of them. I'm left with 2 y's on bottom. And then I have 1 z on top and 2 z's on bottom, so I can just have 1 z on bottom. Okay, that's multiplying. Those ones are fairly simple. It honestly is just keeping track of where things are. Okay, the next one, very similar. The only thing that's different is it's division, so we're going to flip. So we're going to leave the first one. Okay, we're going to change it to multiplication, and we're going to flip the second, meaning everything that was on bottom, we're going to put on top, and everything that was on top, we're going to put on bottom. And now we're going to combine. We have 3 times 7, and I'm going to combine my x's. I have 12 x's on top because I have 6 and 6. And then y's, I've got 3, and z's, I have 8. And that's just adding my exponents. Then on bottom, I got 7 times 15, 2 x's, 6 y's, and 8 z's. Now I'm going to simplify by canceling. I have 7's. 15 is 3 times 5. Okay, so all I'm left with is a 5 on bottom. Now my x's, 12 on top, 2 on bottom. I can cancel it, so I just have 10 on top. Y's, I've got 3 on top, 6 on bottom, so I'm just going to have 3 on bottom. And then my z's cancel. So that's my final answer. Notice I don't have restrictions because I don't have binomials on the bottom. Okay. The next one, example 3, says to multiply. When we multiply, same thing. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to not flip it. Second thing says to factor everything. These ones that can't factor, I'm going to put in parentheses so I know they have to stay together. But this one, this top one is a GCF, and I'm left with x plus 4. Once I factored, then I multiply, okay, and that just means I'm everything on top, x plus 1, x plus 4, and on bottom I have a x plus 4 and a x plus 2, okay? Now I'm going to simplify. I can cross out only the x plus 4s because they're the only thing that's the same factor. So my final answer is x times x plus 1, and then I have x plus 2. And you're going to notice that I have a binomial on the bottom. So what I do to find my restriction is I take that binomial and I say it cannot equal 0, and I solve. So I would say x cannot equal -2, because if I were to plug -2 in, I'd be dividing by 0, and that's a whole nother can of worms. Okay, so this is the answer. This is a restriction. Okay, example 4. We're going to, again, notice it's multiplication, so I don't have to flip anything. But I am going to factor everything. And I'm not going to go over factoring because you should be professional. But this top one factors into x plus 2, x minus 2. And then a GCF on bottom makes it 2 and x plus 1. That's how good you need to be at factoring. Then the top one is x minus 3, x plus 1. And then the bottom is x plus 2 and x plus 2. I multiply straight across means I just write what I have on top, and on bottom, 2x plus 1, x plus 2, x plus 2, and then I cancel out common factors. So the x plus 1s can cancel. The x plus 2s can cancel. Just one of them, though. So what I'm left with is my final answer is x minus 2, x minus 3 on top, and a 2 and an x plus 2 on bottom. Okay, but because I have a binomial on bottom, I'm going to check my restriction, set that factor not equal to 0, and I say, hey, x can't equal -2. That's the restriction. Okay, and then the last one we're going to do, same thing, same 5 steps. I'm going to stick to it, but notice this is division. Okay, so I'm going to flip it, but factor at the same time. So the first one, when I factor, I can take out a 4, and I'm left with 3x minus 5. And then the bottom is x minus 7, x plus 3. Then I'm going to flip it. So I'm going to put this guy on top, and it ends up being 3x minus 5. Ooh, just kidding. I get 3x plus 5 times x plus 3. And then I get this guy on bottom is 3x plus 5, 3x minus 5. Now notice when it becomes multiplication, I really can just keep this as one step and make it one fraction. And then I cross out my common factors. So the minus 5s, the 3x plus 5s, and the x plus 3. So my final answer, I'm left with a 4 and an x minus 7. Notice I have a binomial, so I'm going to have a restriction of 7. Okay, that's it. Okay, pretty simple if you know how to factor. I want to see work. Okay, get going on big ideas, start your work, and good luck. Let me know if you have questions.